Hello and welcome back to ASA Learnings. Today we will be covering the project scope management area, one of the key areas of the knowledge areas, and its processes. So as discussed in the last video, there are total 10 knowledge areas as per the PMBOK 6 edition. So first is integration management, cost management, risk management, communication management, scope management, quality management, procurement, stakeholder management, schedule management, and resource management. So last week we have covered the integration management video, and if you have missed our video, the link will be in the comment section. You can view and understand the concept of the project integration management. Today we will be covering the project scope management and its associated processes. So today's agenda is to understand the project scope management and its processes. So overall there are the 6 processes. First is plan scope management, collect requirements, define scope, create WBS, validate scope, control scope. So let's get started with our agenda of the knowledge area, which is project scope management. For understanding the project scope management, we need to understand the keywords related to the scope management. So keywords are, it includes the process, which includes all the work required and only the work required to complete the project successfully. It defines what is included in the project and what is not included in the project. Overall, there are the 6 processes in the project scope management. 4 are in our planning process groups and 2 are in the monitoring and controlling process groups. So 4 processes in the planning process groups are plan scope management, collect requirements, define scope, create WBS. 2 processes under the monitoring and control process groups are validate scope, control scope. So here let's start it with the first process of the project scope management, which is plan scope management. So plan scope management is also the part of the planning process group. It includes the process of creating a scope management plan which defines how the project and product scope will be validated and controlled. It provides the guidance and direction how it will be managed during the course of the project. Key outputs of the plan scope management are scope management plan and requirement management plan. Second process is collect requirements. So collect requirements is also the part of the planning process group. Keywords are it determines, it documents, and it manages the stakeholder needs and requirements. For outputs for the collect requirements are requirement documentation and traceability matrix. So friends, let's start it and understand the outputs of the collect requirements. For first output is requirement documentation. So this means the documentation of the different requirements in the project. So first is, it can be the business requirements, stakeholder requirements, solution requirements, project requirements, and quality requirements. Another key output of collect requirements is requirement traceability matrix. So this matrix will determine what are the requirements, whether it meets the project objectives, what are the related deliverables in the project, and what are the test cases for each of the requirements. The third process in the project scope management is define scope. So if we will talk about the define scope process, it is also the part of the planning process group. Keywords are, it develops detailed description of the project and product. It defines the boundary of the project and it defines what will be delivered and what will not be delivered in the project. Defined scope is extremely important to the project success, because if the project is not defined, It may lead to conflict, rework, and stakeholder discontentment. Key outputs for defined scope are project scope statement and project document updates. So what comprises the project scope statement are, it defines the high level description of the project. It defines what are the project deliverables which we need to deliver, what is the acceptance criteria of the stakeholders. Stakeholders can be internal or externals, and last is what are the project exclusions. In terms of project document updates, some of the project documents are assumption logs, requirement documentation plan, or stakeholder register. The next process is create WBS. So let me explain the create WBS means. WBS is the work breakdown structure. It means we are decomposing the work into smaller and more manageable components. The lowest level of work is called as work packages. Let's understand the WBS with the example. So let's say as a project we have to construct a building. So we have to identify what are the key areas of work which we need to work on. Example: design, procurement, construction, inspection, and turnover. In terms of design, let's say there are two activities which we need to do: permits and drawings. If we can further decompose, we can further decompose the different kind of works like permits or drawings. Similarly, for each of the work, we can decompose and we can divide the work into smaller and more manageable components. So for outputs of the create WBS are scope baseline. So let's understand what is scope baseline. Scope baseline is approved project scope statement, WBS and WBS dictionary. And examples of the project document updates in create WBS process are assumption logs and requirement documentation. So the first process in monitoring and controlling process group in project scope management is validate scope. So it defines how the completed project deliverables will be accepted, and we will define the process of the acceptance. It can be performed throughout the project as and when needed. Key outputs for the validated scope is accepted deliverables, work performance information, change request, lesson learned register updates, and requirement documentation updates. Last process in the project scope statement is control scope. Control scope statement is also the part of monitoring and controlling process group. It is a process of monitoring the status of the scope of product as well as project. It also defines the process for how the changes will be managed for the scope baseline. It also ensures whatever the changes or corrective actions need to be done in the project, it will be performed through the perform integrated change control process as per the project integration management knowledge area. So if you missed our previous video for project integration management, you can check the link in the comment section below and can go through on that. So in terms of outputs for the control scope are work performance information, which will define and which will compare what is the current progress versus the scope baseline, what are the changes which we have received, and what is the impact of the changes, whether it's on a schedule or cost. Then change request, if any plan need to be updated due to the control scope, we need to update our project management plan. And it also lead to the project document updates for lesson learned and requirement documentation. Thank you and keep watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and comment any of your doubts and queries. We will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe ASA Learning's YouTube channel to learn more. Happy learning!